Is this what it's come down to, Black people? Is this where we're at? Are we at the point where, you know, you just keep calling people coons, you keep calling people house niggers, keep calling people sellouts, you keep coming for Angela Stanton? I'm not good with that. I'm not okay with that. You're coming for the Hodge twins. David Harris Jr., you can take him, but the rest of them? No, bro. Sorry, Snoop, you're wrong. You're wrong. Listen, Snoop, I am really embarrassed to have to do this to you, but clearly I need to give you some pictures because you're too stupid to understand words. You're too stupid to understand your history. You don't even fucking know your history, Snoop. You don't know it. So why don't I go ahead and read you a fucking story? Actually, I'm going to have someone else read you a fucking story. I'm going to demonstrate to you what the black mob mentality really is and where it really comes from.
My name is Mr. Smith. Jones owned a cotton plantation and many slaves. One day he was talking to the owner of the plantation next to his, and Mr. Jones was lamenting the fact that times were tough. He was having to work his slaves harder than ever, and was having trouble with some of them being disobedient or trying to run away. The other plantation owner said he knew someone who could help.
Day one.
One day, Mr. Jones called his slaves together so a man named Mr. Smith could talk to them. Before beginning, Mr. Smith whispered to Mr. Jones, "Whatever I say, do not contradict me or interfere, and I promise you your slave troubles will end." "My name is Mr. Smith," he said to the slaves, "and this may be the happiest day of your lives. From today forward, you will no longer be slaves, but free men." Mr. Jones was so shocked he started to step forward, but Mr. Smith gestured for him to remain silent. He did, only because the other plantation owner had spoken so highly of Mr. Smith's skills. "You are no longer the property of Mr. Jones," Mr. Smith continued. "You are free. No more will you be forced to labor for the benefit of Mr. Jones. Now you can work for yourselves." Now the slaves were all murmuring and looking at each other. Many were smiling, many were looking puzzled. "In fact, you are now free to leave the plantation whenever you want," Mr. Smith said. "However, since we are surrounded by other plantations, if you leave, some other plantation owner will likely claim you as his own the moment you set foot on his property. So I urge you not to risk your newfound freedom."
Does that sound familiar? If you leave the plantation, the white privilege will get you. If you vote for Donald Trump, the white privilege will get you. If you think for yourself, the white privilege will get you. You got to stay here with us. You got to stay here with us complaining niggas. You got to stay here with us field niggas. Because if you leave, the white man gonna get you.
Freedom by doing something so foolish. Instead, I suggest that you stay here, no longer as slaves, but as willing participants and part owners of this plantation. Yes, this is now your plantation. Mr. Jones bit his tongue to keep from objecting. "For now, we might as well leave Mr. Jones in charge," said Mr. Smith, "since he is the only one with any experience at running a plantation, which is quite a complicated thing to manage. But he will no longer be your master, but just another worker on the plantation. In fact, he will now be using his organizational and management skills to serve you. Whatever problems you may have."
How many times do Democrats have to tell you, we will fight for the people. We will fight for the black community. We will fight for the gay community. We will fight for all people. We will fight for illegals. You see how they pretend to be on your side. You see that? You see how easy the manipulation is when the Klans member takes off the robe and shows you his face and pretends to be your friend. Didn't Malcolm X warn you about people like this? It's been going on for a while.
"Have had with him before, you are now all equals, and you need each other to make this work. If we all cooperate and work together, we can all reap the benefits together. In honor of this happy occasion, I present you this new symbol of togetherness and cooperation, this flag, which shall be the emblem of the new free Jones plantation. He held up the new flag, but most of those listening were still too amazed to respond. And this shall be our motto, Mr. Smith announced. We work together as free men for our mutual benefit, pledging our allegiance to the Jones Plantation, which stands for prosperity, liberty, and justice for all. To celebrate, everyone has the rest of the day off. Enjoy your freedom, do as you please, and be back here tomorrow morning, bright and early, so that we may begin work on this great and noble new endeavor as equal free men. Finally convinced that Mr. Smith was serious, the former slaves applauded and cheered.
Day 2.
We all want this plantation to do well, Mr. Smith said at the beginning of the next meeting, so we can all share in the benefits. We all know that it takes a lot of effort to make a cotton plantation work. Just because you're all free doesn't mean you can stop working. In fact, since you're now working for yourselves, I expect you to work even harder than ever before, but now with pride and joy, knowing that you're working for yourselves. Of course, there still have to be rules. If everyone just does whatever he wants, the plantation won't produce anything. This experiment will fail and we'll all starve. You should be thankful that Mr. Jones has agreed to stay on to lend his knowledge.
You should be thankful.
Skills to this endeavor, and I trust you will all do your own part to make this work.
This is exactly how the Democratic Party treats Black people. You should be thankful I'm here from you to protect you from those racist Republicans. You should be thankful I'm here for you to make sure that you get your food stamps and your Section 8. You should be thankful I'm here for you because I'm going to raise the minimum wage because basically I don't think you have the skill level to get a better job yourself. Sound familiar? Be thankful for your masters, Snoop. Be thankful for your masters. They need you. You should be.
Several of you have been chosen to act as project supervisors to manage different aspects of the operation, to make sure everyone is doing his assigned job, to make sure that the rules are followed, and so on. The rest of you may head out to the fields to start your first day of work as free men.
Those supervisors he's talking about in the story, that's you, Snoop. That's you. That's T.I. That's Al Sharpton, Sean King, basically Jesse Jackson, all the Black Lives Matters people, Colin Kaepernick, Don Lemon. You're all the supervisors. See, that was the role that niggas like you used to have. You were the supervisor. You had to make sure that all the other niggas knew that if they left the plantation, someone else was going to catch them. You had to drive that point home because Massa was giving you a little bit extra. Sounds familiar, Snoop? Didn't matter. I think. What is your net worth, Snoop? Let me look that up. I'm gonna look that up. What is your net worth? Let's see how much Massa paid you to socially engineer an entire generation of young Black men to love a gangster lifestyle. You were a big influencer in that, Snoop. So let's go ahead and I'm gonna pull up your net worth, Snoop, and then we're gonna talk about how evil white people are. You know, the ones that paid you weren't evil, but you know, the ones that could potentially pay the rest of the Black race, the ones that could potentially lift up the Black race, you're gonna tell them to be scared.
Day 3.
The next morning, Mr. Smith had a grim expression on his face as the daily meeting began. I have an unpleasant duty to do today, he said. Yesterday, Charles was caught keeping some of the cotton he picked, presumably to sell for his own personal profit. That is against the rules. That is stealing. For that, Charles must be punished. 2 men tied Charles to the whipping post. I take no joy in this, Mr. Smith continued, but you must understand, if we do not maintain order, if we do not have rules that we all abide by, then the plantation will fail, and we will all suffer. The whip cracked against Charles' back. But if we all pitch in for the common good, then we can all prosper. Being free doesn't mean you should be selfish and greedy. We must each do our assigned duties and obey the rules.
All right, Snoop.
And then we can all benefit. and each of you will receive your appropriate.
Okay, Snoop, so your net worth is $150 million. Really, Calvin? That's how much you're worth? I thought you would have been worth more. How much money did you spend in the last couple decades? I actually think that's quite low, but still you're doing better than most of the slaves. So my guess is that you've actually earned probably 4 or 5 times that amount. You've just spent it. So yeah, it looks like the being in the supervisory position really did you well, didn't it, Mr. Brodus?
Appropriate share of the profits. A young man named Samuel stepped forward. But if you and Mr. Jones decide the rules and whip us if we disobey, how is that any different from what we had before? How can you say that? Mr. Smith asked. I'm shocked. You were a slave before, and now you're free. Things still need to be managed and organized by those best qualified to do so. Do you know how to run a plantation, Samuel? Well, no, he answered. But if we're free, why do we get no say in what the rules are and how things work? I'm surprised at your ingratitude, Mr. Smith answered. None of you know how a plantation is run, so you're in no position to be making decisions about how things are done here. You don't seem to appreciate all the things that Mr. Jones.
You don't appreciate all the things that the Democratic Party gave you?
All the outside threats you know nothing about. Those who would come here, capture and enslave you, if not for Mr. Jones.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Protection, to making sure that you all have food and housing, tools to work with, that you're cared for when sick and injured, and so on. There wouldn't be a plantation at all, no cotton to pick, no land to plant and harvest, if not for him. You should be grateful that he's made possible the level of comfort you now have. Your lives would be far worse if not for him. Nevertheless, as free and equal participants in this endeavor, from now on at each meeting, any worker may have 2 minutes to ask questions or voice suggestions or complaints. With that, the workers all seemed satisfied and headed out again to the fields to pick the cotton.
Day 4.
I have a big announcement, Mr. Smith said as the daily meeting began. Mr. Jones' cousin is here, and not just to visit and see how our project is coming along.
Do you see how the left has created an illusion of freedom for you? Do you see how the left has manipulated you into your loyalty to that party? Do you see how they have presented you an illusion of freedom, an illusion of friendship, an illusion of fucking control? And yet they are pulling every fucking string that you have. They are telling you where to work, what your education level should be, what kinds of jobs you should be having, what kinds of it's okay to have a broken family. It's okay to not pay for your kids. It's okay to have baby after baby after baby. It's okay to fucking have abortion after abortion after abortion. All of that's okay as long as you stay on the plantation. You can do whatever you want. Because the minute you leave the plantation, now you're responsible for your own life. And see, the supervisors and the plantation owners, they can't have that, right, Snoop? You can go out and make $150 million. You just don't want anyone else to go out and make $150 million.
It has been decided that from now on, you will be deciding who will manage the plantation. Of course, this job can't be done by just anyone, but every 3 months we will have a special meeting at which all the workers will vote on whether we think Mr. Jones should run the plantation or whether we think his cousin, Mr. Johnson, should run the plantation. That means that ultimately you are in charge because you will be deciding which man you want running things on your behalf. If you don't like the way things are being managed, you now have the power to change it. Amazed and pleased, the workers headed out again to the field.
I mean, honestly, has anything really changed? Here's your choices: communist or socialist, baby killer or baby molester, right? Poverty pimp or poverty pimp. Really? You have a choice. Just one smiles like this and the other one smiles like that. One has this tone of voice and the other one has that tone of voice. But essentially, we know they're the same source of oppression. We know that, Calvin, but you're trying to tell everyone else that we're wrong. Angela Stanton King knows that, but you call her a coon. The Hodgson twins know that, but you're calling them coons. I mean, I would love to see you actually try to fight one of them. They would fuck you up. They would fuck your skinny ass up. I bet you wouldn't call them coons to their fucking face. Now, would you, Calvin Brodus? Because we saw how you backed down when what was it? Barack's defense secretary came for your ass on Twitter. We saw how you backed down then when you came for Gayle King, who by the way, how much do you know about her, Snoop? Because we need to find out if she's in on the pedophilia shit too. Do a little research. I don't mind you going for Gayle King, but you sure did back down when you got called out, didn't you?
Fields to pick the cotton. Days passed, months passed, a year passed, and the plantation continued to operate as before. Sometimes Mr. Jones was in charge, sometimes Mr. Johnson was in charge, but the day-to-day routine stayed exactly the same. The workers worked hard, long hours every day, and still had little to show for it.
Little to show for it. Little to show for it. So what have the Democrats done for anyone? Because they're not just destroying Black people's lives. They're destroying white people's lives too. They're destroying my life. They're destroying legal Hispanic residents. They're destroying their lives because now it's even harder for them to get any respect in this country because the amount of illegals that are here. So the ones that actually went through the process, it's even harder for them. People who earned their citizenship, it's even harder for them. But what has changed? What changed when Barack Obama became president? What changed when this bitch-ass London breed became mayor of San Francisco? What changed when you put all these fucking Black Democrats or even white Democrats in charge of yourself? What fucking changed? It was the same thing throughout a year on this plantation, and it's been the same thing since the 60s on the plantation. It's been 6 decades now. 6 decades of broken families and stunted growth. 6 decades of self-destruction and abortion and murder. What do you have to show for it? What does the Democratic Party have to show for it? Not a fucking thing. But yet, Snoop, you want to call Angela Stanton King a coon? Maybe you're the fucking coon. You love shucking and jiving for master. That $150 million is real nice, huh? Well, guess what, Snoop? We know where you live in Rancho Cucamonga, bro. All of us in LA, we know where you live. Your day will come, Snoop.
Meeting would begin with them all reciting the Jones Plantation motto. We work together as free men for our mutual benefit, pledging our allegiance to the Jones Plantation, which stands for prosperity, liberty, and justice for all. One day, Mr. Smith announced, Samuel is asked to say a few words this morning, and whatever the rest of us may think of his ideas and opinions, we are all free here, and that means we are all allowed to speak our minds. So, Samuel, you have 2 minutes. Begin. Samuel stepped forward, looking scared. I was excited when all this started, he began, glancing nervously at Mr. Smith.
I was excited when Barack Obama became president.
Here? Nothing's changed. We're all still slaves. There were grumbles of disagreement from the crowd. They tell us what to do and whip us if we don't. They still make all the rules and punish us if we disobey. They let us make suggestions and complain about things, but they never really change anything. They let us choose between Mr. Jones and Mr. Johnson, but what's the difference? The situation stays the same. We do all of the work and they take as much as they want and decide how much they'll let us keep. They live in luxury, made rich by the cotton we pick.
Yep.
We do all the work and have to build our own huts, grow our own food, and take care of ourselves. They leave us just enough that we don't revolt or run away.
Mm-hmm.
This is not freedom. We're all still slaves. They've only changed the words they use, but nothing else has changed. They say we're all free and equal, but we're not. They command and we obey. That's not freedom. That's not equality.
Nope.
They say we're free to leave, but all that means is that we're free to be someone else's slave. Why should we work or obey the rules? We didn't agree to this. They made the system. They forced it on us. They control and rob us and call it freedom.
Mm-hmm.
They deceive you into thinking that being able to choose which slave master you'll work for is the same as being free. It's not. Open your eyes. If you keep what you produce, they call it stealing. When they take what you produce, they call it sharing and fair distribution. Can't you see that this is all your time is up, Samuel? Mr. Smith announced calmly. At his gesture, two supervisors grabbed Samuel by the arms and led him to the whipping post. I'm sorry, Samuel, but you've broken the rules.
Mm-hmm.
There are rules against encouraging others not to work and encouraging others to break the rules. You're only hurting all of us with your discontentment and your complaining and your disobedience. The whip fell and Samuel let out a grunt. Without rules, without order, all would be lost. Without law, there would be chaos. We can't just behave as wild animals, each doing whatever he pleases. We must all follow the plan
Unless you're
and all
black.
do our duty for the betterment of everyone. And those who do not must be punished. The whip fell again and blood flowed freely from Samuel's back. Samuel, it is you who are stealing from the others when you don't do your side.
You see that? Snoop, see that was your job. Were you a head supervisor, or were you an assistant supervisor in your past life, Snoop? Huh? You're one of the ones. See, you just carried everyone that you put on your little coon bunch meme. Okay, you just took all of them to the whipping post, you piece of shit. Glad I didn't pay to see your ass in Vegas. Piece of shit. Yeah, I saw you at Dre's. Don't come back.
Fine work, you are making more work for others. When you disobey the rules, it is you who are endangering the future of everyone else here. You are the thief. You are the criminal. You are the one trying to destroy the arrangement that keeps us all safe and prosperous.
Did you hear that? You are the thief. You are the criminal. You are the one who tries to prevent the arrangement from keeping all of us prosperous. Isn't that how you treat me? Isn't that how you treat Candace Owens? Isn't that how you treat Thomas Sewell and James Smith and all of them? Isn't that how you treat the ones that speak up and without even having a bias, simply speak truth, simply state facts? Isn't that how you treat them? You're ridiculous. You're out of control and you don't even fucking know it. But guess what? Your day is coming, Snoop. We're taking notes. We're taking notes. And if we can find a way to hold your ass for treason, we will. It is you who needs to be on that slave post.
Every lash of the whip, the other workers cheered louder and louder, some yelling curses at Samuel. Being spoiled and selfish, you complain about everything, talking as if you're oppressed. But you are the one ruining things. You are the one keeping us from being all we could be. It is your greed and your rebelliousness that is hurting all of us. They all play by the rules, Mr. Smith said, gesturing at the others. What makes you think that you don't have to? You think you're above the law? There were loud yells of agreement as the
Before we go on, let's just make it very clear that I'm sure this is true in all cultures, but specifically in Black culture, it seems like anytime, this is why Axe calls them Black people crabs in a bucket. This is why. Because anytime there's one person who steps forward and tries to ask for more, feels that they deserve more, wants fairness, wants justice, wants autonomy, wants independence, wants to be respected as a human being. Anytime that happens, what do all the other little Black kids do? What do all the other little black kids do? Oh, you think you're better than us. You think you're better than us. You see how the divide started a long fucking time ago? You guys see this? Do you see how the mob mentality that black people have started a long fucking time ago? I mean, I'm even old enough to remember when Colin Powell was considered a house nigger. You remember, or is anyone old enough to remember when he was considered a house nigger? Huh? Anytime a person of color wants to advance themselves, it is the rest of the group that crucifies them. You ought to be ashamed of yourself, Snoop. You have done more to destroy the black race than Angela Stanton, Hodge twins, Candace Owens, David Harris Jr., any of them could do combined to remotely hurt black people. The only part of black people that they hurt are blacks' feelings. And it was that way then. That mob shit was that way then, and it is that way now. And you're a supervisor, Snoop. Note to self, we will hold you for treason one day as well. You're not going to be forgiven for this. We are going to remember your little meme, Snoop, for a long time coming.
Whip fell again. We must maintain order, Mr. Smith proclaimed, to make this plantation great, to make it so that we can all be happy and prosperous. To have the society we want, there have to be rules. We all have to contribute our fair share to this great endeavor, and we cannot tolerate actions and attitudes that seek to undermine the amazing things that together as free men we have achieved and will continue to achieve. Mr. Jones was smiling as he gave Mr. Smith a pat on the back. The crowd was cheering so loudly that none of them had noticed that Samuel had died.
I need to tell you something that you're not going to believe, but I have to say it because it's true. For the most part, the genetically engineered black society that you have created and people like you have created, Snoop, people like you have had a hand in creating, Snoop. The problem is that you guys love violence. You love it. You niggas love seeing other niggas get killed. You love it. You love it because then you get to blame the white man every time. Even when blacks do it, you still get to blame the white man. You still get to blame the white man. It's the most convenient arrangement that, the powers that be have made with the devil. Let you guys be both 100% victims and then 100% predators at the same time. It's fucking genius, actually. Okay? Blacks love violence unless it is committed against them by another race, or particularly the white race, because blacks don't seem to speak out when they're getting killed by Mexicans. You know, M18, Latin Kings. Blacks never like to admit when brown people are killing them. Certainly the news doesn't like to talk about it. Blacks don't like to admit it because for whatever loyalty, you seem to think that the illegal Hispanic population is on your side. They're not. Maybe the American Hispanic population is on your side, but the illegal Hispanic population is not on your side, black people, just in case you don't know that. But yeah, blacks love violence. They absolutely love torture and brutality. They fucking love it. If you don't believe me, I suggest you Google a name, Idi Amin, since you're so proud of, your African roots. That's an African you need to learn about. And the fact that over 100 people, Black people, have been killed since this whole George Floyd bullshit started. The fact that 6 Black kids have gotten killed in the past couple of days, it confirms it. You love violence. You love watching it. You love participating in it. And the idea of 30 or 40 people, even 10, even 5 people brutalizing one person, like, that's not a problem for you. Like, even the idea of fighting fair, Blacks don't have that concept. You want everybody to kill one because that's how you get your rage out. And I'm sorry you have this PTSD, this generational slave PTSD that makes you continue to be this way even today. It's really sad. But yeah, make no mistake about it. You love violence. You always have, and you always will.